because we're like 4:04, almost 5 minutes after. And so I'll just start by saying thank you. I see so many familiar faces and folks that I've talked to and met over the last couple of weeks, as well as some old friends. I appreciate that you'll take some time to chat with me today about creativity. This is the first in a series. This series came about through some conversations I had with a client recently about developing your superpowers. So we're looking at all the superpowers that it takes to be both resilient and successful in your business. And I selected creativity to be the first one, mostly because I love it. And we'll have a different theme each month, and I'll share with you that at the end. And thanks, Corby, for getting us started on finding out where everybody is. But I'll go around the room. We have a small enough group that we can at least introduce ourselves. So if you wouldn't mind, tell us your name, where in the world you are from, because we already know some of us are not all in the same country. And then maybe just a little bit about what you do, what your business is. We don't need a whole lot there, but I think it's good to see the spectrum of folks that we have here on the call. So I'm going to start with you, Corby, because you started us off with the where are you at? Okay. Name, where you're at in your business.
All right. I am Corby Mitleid. I live in Schoharie County, New York, which is about an hour west of Albany, 32,000 people and a bunch of cows and sheep. I'm an internationally known psychic medium, been doing it professionally since '94, been doing this stuff since '73. Full-time business, 6 days a week. Books, radio, television, written my own books. It's a good life.
Fantastic. Thank you. I'm going to just go around my Zoom link. So Joel, you're next on my list. There you go.
My name is Joel Purdy. I'm in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. So West Kentucky, about an hour north of Nashville, roughly 45 minutes. I'm a fitness nutrition coach. High Performance Human is my program. I work with entrepreneurs and business owners.
Okay, fantastic. And Teresa.
Well, hello. I am Teresa T.L. Matthew, and I am in North Georgia, small town called Cartersville. And I have a couple of businesses. One is called SAIRNT, or SAIRNT. I'm a nutritional therapist and weight loss coach. And my other business is called Some Foods, where I manufacture sweeteners and low sugar and low glycemic products for keto-friendly diabetic, that type of thing.
Fantastic. Thank you. And do you want me, TL, is that what you want me to call you instead of Teresa, because it says there, which one?
Yeah, I usually go by TL.
Gotcha, TL, because I thought that, but then I saw Teresa and you confused me, so I'll stick to that one. I'm keeping around the corner here, so it's Michelle. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you. Hi, Michelle. Michelle Bell. I have a couple of different businesses. I live in San Diego. You're bound to see, if you haven't already, at least one or more cat in this general vicinity, because the microphone is on, and so obviously that means all kitties must arrange here. They're super awesome like that. So two things that I do, I have a marketing agency, so we teach process and workflow automation to people. We also support people, it's just, we can do done with you, done for you, however people want to work, because we're really more about how you want to work than anything. I also have a second business where it is specifically designed to help health coaches. Hi, Joel. Yeah, this is what we do. We teach health coaches how to use automation to support their practice better, so that you can actually reach out and help more people. Because if you're spending less time doing all that mundane crap, you can actually see more people and affect more change. So that's what I do. Yeah, next.
Perfect. Thanks, Michelle. Dawn, there she is.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dawn Minge. I have a PhD in curriculum instruction. By day, I teach students with severe cognitive delays. I've been doing it for 20 years. I'm also a lecturer and a mentor for other teachers, but my business is I write an educational series based on my family and my students and my real adventures. And so that's what I do for fun.
Fantastic, Dawn. We'll move on up to Patty.
Yeah, hi, I'm Patty Stortz. I'm from Dallas, Texas. And what I do is I'm a website designer and developer, nerdy girl web developer, is a business that I started, and I help female business owners.
Fantastic, Patty. Celeste? I can't hear you, Celeste. Oh, there you are. Name, where you're at, and business.
Okay, my name is Celeste Collins. I'm Californian who recently relocated to North Carolina to an area called Chapel Hill. I also just recently left the corporate world, and right now I'm focused on supporting a group called Over and Above Africa that is working to help prevent the sale of animal parts for our endangered species here in the U.S.
Fantastic, Celeste.
Yeah, we're working on some really cool things, and we've got an auction that we're starting to pull together now for the October timeframe.
Okay.
Again, it's really exciting.
It sounds exciting. I'm eager to hear more. Okay, Job, you're up next.
Hey, I'm Joe Meal. I have a marketing agency and a marketing consultant. So those two very well pre together as I help coaches, consultants, and course creators first build an organic marketing foundation and then use the marketing agency to scale everything up with funnels, ads, and automations. Thank you.
Fantastic. April?
Yeah, my name is April. I just recently relocated from Southern California to Las Vegas, and I'm in the travel tourism industry. I create and lead small photography tours and also do personalized itineraries for people that want to go out on their own and travel the United States, seeing, getting their own photographs for their own use. So thanks, Cindy.
Yeah, fantastic. And JR?
Hey gang, JR Chappell. I'm the Director of Retirement Planning at Ensign Partners in Phoenix. We primarily work with business owners and families on retirement planning, executive and employee benefits, for companies, that kind of stuff.
Okay, fantastic. I think that I got everybody, right? I went around, so perfect.
Yes.
All right. Well, so as I said, I'm going to do a different theme each month. This month it's creativity, and I've been picking a book to kind of accompany it. And this month, and I'll talk a little bit about it, I picked this Big Magic. If you've not seen Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic, she's the author of Eat, Pray, Love. She wrote this little book on how she sees creativity in her life and how she sort of manages to keep it there even when she's frustrated and what she does when she's stuck. I read the book as a recommendation from a client, and I'm in love with the book. It's got some really great mystical aspects of how creativity, she sort of writes it as if creativity is a being that comes in your life and goes. I like the way that feels, but there's a lot in here, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the things that I kind of took away from it. But I'll share, I have a little quote that I picked from here, which this is, I think, why I like the book. She says, when I refer to creative living, I am speaking more broadly. I'm talking about living a life that is driven more strongly by curiosity than by fear. And that's really kind of how I wanted to frame our conversation today, about how creativity is about kind of ignoring that fear and just doing the things that you want to, and taking having the courage to take those steps to move forward. And so we'll talk about some more things in the book there, but I did want to just take a minute and talk about how we'll structure this, and then a little bit about how creativity impacts our business. So that's the first thing I'll talk about. And then after I give a little bit of background on how creativity is impacting business both today and in the past, then we'll go into what I had structured as a panel. So I think Job, JR, Patty.
Yep, they're all four here.
Yeah, everybody's here in Corby. So we have four folks that we're going to use as our panel. They're by no means creative experts. They're just everyday people like the rest of us, but they have businesses just like you do, and want to talk about what they're doing, how they manage to find creativity in their business, how they stay there, and we'll ask a few questions, and then we'll just open it up for the rest of the group to ask the same questions, and maybe we'll end up with some dialogue back and forth. And then at the end, I'm going to share a couple more books in addition to this and some ideas. We'll talk about things that you can do in your everyday life and in your daily routine to try to maintain that spark of inspiration and creativity as we go through that. So the first thing I wanted to talk about, and I know those of you who I interviewed for the video, we talked about what people who don't think that they're creative, and I hear that all the time when we talk about being creative. I hear lots of naysayers and say, well, I'm not creative. They're very dismissive. I say, get that out of your head. We're all creative. Everything from, you know, expressing yourself in music and painting, that's the traditional way of thinking it. But there's also when you modify a household item to meet your needs, you know, when you cut off the handle or change something, this is you being creative. And when you come up with a new idea or product or service for your customer, this is you being creative. All of those things are ways that we're creative. I think creativity is really a fancy word for problem solving. So that's what you're really doing. And I think in business, problem solving is incredibly important. There's lots of ways that sort of comes up. Problem solving allows you, as I said, to kind of create new services and products, but it also gives you new ways to achieve your goals rather than what, you know, the traditional approach. I'm sure we've all experienced that when you're trying to set out to start your business. All of you, or most of you, are doing your own thing. You know, there's no path set. You had to come up with your own approach to do this, and finding that inspiration in those moments of, aha, that's what I'm going to try, is when that creativity is coming to you. There's lots of different ways to look at how you do your business, but I think that finding creative, innovative ideas is what sets us apart. And I did have a couple of other things to share, so let me just go here. So I found this fascinating. They did a study where they were asking CEOs what the most important leadership skill was. Can you guys see my screen, or am I not sharing?
No, I don't see it, Cindy.
Oh, it disappeared. Okay, oh, I see, I didn't hit the share button. There it is.
Go.
So they did a study asking 1,500, IBM did the study at 1,500 CEOs and asked them what the most important leadership qualities were. And so these are the things that they listed. You'll see creativity found its way at the top. Not a big surprise to me, and probably not to you, but I find it interesting that over influence, over dedication, creativity is the #1 soft skill, if you will, that leaders are looking for. And then one other quick statistic is, this one was, I think, when I saw this, I was like, this is because of what's happening in the industry and what's happening in the world. So this is a study done by the World Economic Forum, and they did it in 2015. Creativity fell, or was at the 10th item in the required skills to run a business. But since 2015 and 2020, it moved its way all the way up to #3. So I think there's a lot of reasons for this. I think that all of the innovation and artificial intelligence, all the things that are happening around the technology space, which is where my background is, I think creativity is something that tech will never replace. So we cannot automate creativity. We cannot do that. We can automate hard work, right? We can, as several of you that we're talking to today are in the business of helping people automate those rudimentary tasks that we all don't like, things like sending out email notifications and so forth. But we can automate those things. We can use technology to enhance our business, do things faster, do things better, even do things smarter. But the one thing that cannot be done by a computer or by a robot or any of that is to be creative and innovative. We can't teach it to be that. So I find that interesting, but also not too surprising that it manages to move up the scale. And I think it will just continue to do that. Does anybody else, I'll open it up before we start any other questions. Anybody have any thoughts on like why that is, or maybe why creativity is important now versus before, how it's changed? JR.
I mean, you said it exactly right, Cindy. It really relates to problem solving more than anything. So we saw last year when the world blew up and everything got turned on its head, the businesses that were able to quickly pivot,
Yep.
and the owners and and managers that were able to quickly think through problem. Okay, how can we make a hard right turn here? Those businesses succeeded, and in some cases thrived. A number of companies had their best year in the history of their firms, and the ones that weren't able to figure that out quickly, sadly, some didn't make it, or some were just barely scraping by and are just now trying to come back online, so to speak. So you're absolutely right. As far as creativity goes, it absolutely is problem solving first and foremost before anything else.
Right. And I'm glad you brought that up, because as I, saw it moved up in 2020, and I don't know when they did this, the research for that, if they did it at the beginning of 2020, obviously that was why it was higher in the scale. But if they maybe did it in 2019, I would imagine that in 2020, March, April, May, it would have made its way to the top. You're right, because it really did. You're right. That's what happened. We found that, being agile and innovative was what kept businesses alive. And I think as a leader, if you're, leading a team of folks, if you're moving your business forward, and being innovative and creative in the way that you do your business is what's going to set you apart, right? There's one of the things that Elizabeth Gilbert says in her book is there's no brand new thought. There's all these things, people, ideas, and things come to everybody. We share them, but the innovative way to do it, the ability to take the courage to do it, those are the two things that make the difference. A lot of people have ideas. A lot of us have books in our head, but they're not out. The people who write the books, those are the ones, the people that, build the products. That's what makes the difference. So, I want to talk a little bit about how we can move into that. So we'll just move into the panel discussion. And as I said, I prepared some questions because it's hard when we have a group of people to get a real dialogue going, but we'll see if we can get a little bit of a dialogue going with the four folks that are going to do the panel. So that it's JR, Job, Patty, and TL are and Corby.
Yeah,
I think that's 5. And so I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and I'll just ask them of each of you to answer the question. And hopefully I'll get around to you if we don't. And if you don't have an answer, just, that's fine. Just say, I can't think of anything. We got plenty of things to talk about. We'll just keep going. And I'll just go around the room and ask those questions. So I'm going to start with Job, because I know he always has good answers. We talked before. Can you tell us a story about when you've been creative or innovative in your business or personal life? Do you have a creativity story, something that you've done?
Yeah, and I think for me, it wasn't something that it wasn't reinventing the wheel or anything like that. I definitely look at creativity, particularly in with any sort of business, as identifying where you sort of stand out or what isn't happening at the moment, so that you can kind of adjust what you're doing. So I started off with just my marketing agency and trying to help coaches, course creators, and consultants. And I noticed a lot of people were coming to me looking for the agency to almost be the solution.
Okay.
To sort of help me get my business up and going, help me develop all of these things. And that's not everything that can be done in a done for you part. Some people might take that on, but what I noticed was that you need to have your offer refined. You need to know who you're targeting. You need to have the messaging right. So that was all stuff that I think happens more from helping someone flesh that out themselves, rather than trying to give someone the answer and trying to do it all for them. So for me, the creativity side was building that consulting program and trying to, and constantly working on it to make sure that it applies to people that are in that stage and what they need when they first start out. So my view on it is you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Okay.
We just have to sort of, throughout what we're doing, just notice where gaps are happening and figure out a way of, like you and JR said, problem solving, where can I sort of help, and how is that different to everyone else?
Right. And it sounds like you're talking about just sort of being agile, right? Just adjusting as you go, try something. and adjust and try and adjust, which is repeated creativity, right? Over and over, doing it multiple times. All right, I'm going to move to Corby, and the same question, if you have some ideas on what you've done, just to share, kind of get a feel for how people are creative in their businesses.
Okay. Well, when people hear psychic medium, they think that we all wear turbans and our names are Madame Hoo-ha, and we talk to dead people and we read cards. I do a lot more than that. And I knew that in order to stand out, I was going to have to pull from my entire background. Now, as I said, I started doing this part-time professionally in '94, full-time after 9/11. But before that, I had been an actress, an author, an inspirational speaker, a legal assistant, a writer for a graphic novel series, a video producer, and executive recruiter for engineering and manufacturing. Can you say checkered career? So I said, look at all the stuff I've got. Why can't I use my left brain in this right brain business? So for instance, when someone comes to me and wants to figure stuff out about their entrepreneurial business, I don't do the usual flip 3 cards and go wait until October and fire the second redhead. I go into what I know, a card for them, a card for the energy around the business, the brick and mortar location, how they market it, clients, competition, staff, finances, what they need to know, and best possible outcome. And they're looking at me like I have 3 heads, because this is not what they expect Madame Hoo-ha to be able to pull out. I don't care.
Right.
Look, you know, to go back to why creativity is so important now. In the old days, way back before the internet, I mean, you had a certain number of people you would look at for something.
Right.
Now you can look at anybody globally. And there's this 24/7 screaming that we see. You can't even pump gas without an advertisement staring you in the face anymore.
Right.
So without creativity, you're going to be part of the teeming masses. You have to do something outrageous to stand out. And I say, nothing is off the table. I do not care if you were the Betty Crocker homemaker for New Jersey in 1973. Find a way to use it. And yes, I was a theater major. Don't ask. That's my story. Always.
Yeah, I love that. There was later I was going to talk about some of the ideas, and you've taken my thunder there, Corby, because it's great. It's association. It's like taking this thing way over here that doesn't really, like Sesame Street, these two things don't belong, and figuring out how to relate them. And that's what you've done, is you found a way to make them fit together. And that is, you know, creativity at its finest. Beautiful.
To myself.
Yeah.
That's key.
Yeah.
God, we talk ourselves out of our creativity 6 days a week.
Oh, we do. We absolutely do. All right, I'm going to move on to Patty because I see her nodding her head. Let's hear Patty, what she has to share.
So yeah, I mean, like pretty much what everybody else has been saying. The reason why I started Nerdy Girl Web Developer was because, just to back up a little bit, I do physical therapy. You know, I just put in my 2 weeks notice to go full time in my business. So like I pivoted over to that because I started falling in love with the coding part and building websites, and it's very therapeutic for me. Mm-hmm. And so it's just something I really wanted to dive into more and learn more of, and just being able to be creative in that way is like a lot of fun, and I enjoy it. And then I was like, well, why not just go for it and start a business in the middle of a pandemic? Why the hell not, right?
Right. What else are you gonna do?
It's crazy, right? So I mean, I had a lot of time to think about what I wanted to do and how I wanted to get it going. And you know, my aim was to help female business owners because, you know, more than ever, I want to empower females, you know, and help elevate their businesses. So I mean, that's pretty much what I've been doing for a year and a half now. So, yeah. And I love it. So yeah, that's what I've been doing.
That's fantastic. And now you're hitting on a topic of the courage, right? You put in your 2 weeks notice. I'm applauding you. That's awesome.
Yes. I mean, it was very scary, but
it is.
But it went really well. And so I'm just going to keep going forward.
Fantastic. It takes a lot of courage to take those steps. And and you just have to own what's in your heart, like Corby said. I think that's important too. All right, JR, let's hear your creativity story in your business.
In my world, probably the best example would be when we are working with a business owner, and let's say they have a successful company, but everything else is a disaster. They have no idea what retirement planning even means. They have no idea, how to retain, key employees that really help their company run. They have no idea, if they have the right insurance in place. So, we can really go through everything in detail and show them, here's how this works. Here's, this little nugget here is going to help solve that problem. Here's how you keep people working for you that are really important. Here's how you prepare to eventually get out of your company someday. Because, one thing I run into all the time is people say, well, I'm just going to work till I'm dead. Okay, that's fantastic. But if we can be realistic for a second, you probably are not going to be running your company as your main employment at 82 years old. Like, at some point, you're going to start slowing down and get out of the business. And so having those conversations with owners and kind of showing them the other pieces of the puzzle, because owners are good at their company, they're good at running their business. It's just everything else that falls by the wayside. And that's where my team, really comes in and shines.
Yeah, that's great. Let's see. Oh, a TL. We'll talk about the things you've done in your business that are creative.
Oh, that would be just about everything. I mean, I'm listening and I hear the one who said, oh, she builds websites. I mean, imagine building a website 25 years ago when this internet was just getting started and trying to sell them. That's when I actually started learning how to build websites way back then, build computers. I mean, I've done everything that you have to do for your business to be creative. I've done it. I designed product packaging and all of that. And, it's like, that's kind of what you have to do. Like the madam who's said a jack of all trades, or Jane of all trades, whatever that will be. You have all of the things that you know how to do on one side and all of the creativity on the other side, and you just have to marry them, and you just have to use them to push your business forward. Because without do re mi, you have to do it. You have to be the one.
Yeah. Yeah, but you do find when you're running your own business, you're tipping your toe in a lot of things that you're maybe not really great at, but somebody's got to do it. And then you become really great at it, or you really find that you love it. So that's one of the aspects of running your own business that's really great, is especially early on, you get to do lots of things, or you have to do lots of things, depends on the frame of mind or the day of the week.
The day of the week. Yeah, you have to definitely be courageous. I mean, right. I'm going live on Facebook. I'm forcing myself. Gave myself my own challenge. 2 weeks straight on Facebook every day, Facebook, YouTube, going live, because I have resisted that aspect of social media for so long that, it's like now I have to, so it's like,
just step off the ledge. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Take the step. That is the hardest part. So now I'm going to ask about getting stuck. So I'll go back around and I'll ask the questions. If you get stuck creatively, and does it happen often? And what are some of the things you do when you find yourself unable to solve the problem? That's really, we're talking about creativity, but we're really talking about problem solving. And you're presented with a challenge or a problem that you can't find a solution to. Does that happen? And what do you guys do to move past that? JR, you're nodding, so I'm going to go back to you.
Oh, darn. It's like making eye contact with the teacher, so they call on you, right?
That's right.
I mean, in my case, probably the best example of getting, none of us operate in a vacuum, right? We're all part of a group of people typically, or we're engaging with other people who are our customers and clients, right? We're not in a vacuum by ourselves, just printing money for our own use. So
Damn it.
Right.
That would be nice.
Man, I'm doing something wrong. So as far as our, getting stuck creatively, it would probably be, when I'm working with a client or trying to work with a prospective client and they just say, no, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to do that. It's one of two things. Either I didn't articulate their problem effectively enough and how, this particular solution can help solve that. Or they're just not in a place where it's just not going to happen, right?
Not ready.
So as far as, writer's block, if you will, in my line of work, it's not going to do either party any good if I just try to beat them over the head with, well, why not?
Right.
Here's what, this is the solution. This is what we're going to do. It doesn't work that way. So as far as getting stuck, then we kind of go back to the beginning with clients and sort of figure out, okay, what am I missing here? What are you telling me that I'm not understanding? Or, how am I not articulating your problem back to you so this makes sense? So really the way that to get unstuck creatively is to start the conversation over in some respects, and maybe just kind of come at it from a different angle. If the front door is shut and locked, then we're going to look for a side door someplace, if that makes any sense, and just come at the problem from a different angle.
Yeah, well, and you hit on it on something that I think it's questioning, right? It's you ask questions, right? So when you're stuck, asking lots of questions, whether those questions are to yourself or to your customer, that will kind of stimulate some thought and then allow you to kind of come at it, like you said, from a different angle. But
and you can ask the same question you just use different words, and sometimes that's enough to flip the switch for folks to be like, oh, now I get what you're trying to tell me. So then it makes sense to them.
Right. Yep. Exactly. And asking it multiple times in different ways. Perfect. Yep. Perfect. Yeah. Job, we've talked about this getting stuck moment. Do you want to share what you do and how you get out of those moments when you have that writer's block or creativity stuckness?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think approaching from a different angle is always really good. I do like that. Something that I sort of found is that and what I've learned is what you resist persists. So if you're constantly trying to force something to happen, you're not actually thinking about the solution. You keep thinking about, I can't just get over this. I can't get over this. And the focus isn't in the right place. So what I've found is actually completely surrendering to that and going away and pretty much doing something like active idleness is what I've learned with that. So going and doing something that's, it's not watching TV or going on your phone, it's going for a walk, or for me, it's going out to the garage and playing pool. Because I can just do that. I'm not really thinking, and it's getting away from that, thinking about the negative of it, I can't do this, and trying to force a solution out that isn't quite there yet. So for me, it's going and doing that, and then even coming back and taking some time to just, whether it's meditation or whatever you want to call it, just sitting there though and just doing nothing and just letting your mind go and sort of observing the thoughts, not trying to direct them in any way. And it seems counterintuitive because what we've been taught is mindset and how you think and strategic and everything like that. So you got to be able to direct everything and control everything. But I think surrendering to that and allowing yourself to just observe will actually bring out more of that it's going to be a lot more likely that you'll come up with a solution than anything else, or at least how to deal with that.
Right. Yeah. TL's nodding. I completely agree. I go for a walk.
Yeah.
That helps. There's lots of ways to get space in your head. I talk about that. I feel like when I'm problem solving, I need space. Like I need room to stretch my brain, not just my body, but my brain needs room to do things, think about something else, move around a little bit. And somehow then when I come back to it, it's there. I think that's why they say some of the best ideas show up when you're in the shower, because you're doing that idle activity, doing a little bit of nothing, and all of a sudden, poof, comes that idea. So you can create those. That's a great suggestion, Joe, just doing that. TL, did you have some ideas on what happens when you get in that stuck space or having trouble solving a problem?
Yeah, you definitely can't power through it. You know, you can't force it. You do need to step away, take a break. For me, my mind goes blank and idle when I watch TV. So, you know, that's what puts me to sleep, you know, kind of thing. So if I look at that, I can just kind of go blank and zone out, so to speak, or, you know, depending on the time of day, just go to bed, sleep on it. That thought is going to come in the middle of the night when you're good and sleepy. And, you know, when you're deep in thought, it's deep in sleep, and you don't want to get up to go tend to it, but it's going to come. You know, it's kind of why you got to have your phone near and just note, and I'll do this in the morning kind of thing. But yeah, it's going to come when you're not trying to force it. Yeah.
It does. Yeah, it absolutely does. That's it's funny. I have dreamt solutions before myself.
Absolutely.
I wake up and I, you know, had a conversation in my dream or whatever, because I've been, you know, stuck and like trying to force it for days, and somehow my mind needed that rest to get to it. Let's see, Patty, did you have some thoughts on what you do when you get stuck creatively or solving a problem?
Just basically what everybody else has been saying, you know, like they've been saying, you can't force it to come out of you. You just have to walk away and let your mind relax. A lot of times I'll go play soccer, you know, run into a few people, and that'll make me feel better. And then I go for a run. Sometimes when I'm running, I'll like have a really cool idea, and you know, that's what helps me get unstuck. Just exercising, really.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes drawing or reading, but just walking away and just giving myself a rest break.
Yeah,
it helps a lot.
Yeah, I do think physical activity helps. Just get yourself doing something else and forcing your brain to think about another activity, even if it's like TL said, watching TV or talking to a friend, and shifting your mind to something completely else that you're, you know, so you're not focused on it. Gives your brain some space. I have a few more questions, but Corby, did you have something to add here on this topic?
I did. One ridiculous, one sublime. The ridiculous one is right in my lap right now. Get yourself a small ginger kitten who really needs cuddles right now. Your brain will go away from your problem. But the serious thing that I've found is binaural beats, music. It's both brain sync and hemisync. I like Brain Sync. That is by Kelly Howell.
Okay.
And when you plug into one of those, she's got the subliminals. She also has alpha, delta, gamma, theta, and she's got creativity and focus and brain power. And when my brain feels too thick, I will plug that in if I can find just one of the repeating mandalas on the screen.
Okay.
It's not quite meditation because you're very focused, but it really does get me out of the ruts and out of the weeds into a new way of thinking.
Okay, I'm gonna hit you up for what that a link or something you can point us to, because I think that's fascinating.
Can I share it?
Absolutely, Corby. Please, we're all about
need
sharing here.
Go.
Because I do think music itself, that you're talking about a whole different aspect of music. And I think that makes a difference, because it does what we've been talking about. It lets your brain go somewhere else and gets maybe your body moving. All of those things can happen when music happens. So
there's an app called Flow State that's really good.
And what is Flow State? It's an app, you said?
Yes.
Does it have music as well, Joel?
Yes.
Okay.
there's plenty of different options. So what you're doing, like what your intention is, will match what the binaural beat is.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh, wow.
All right,
All right.
I've got it. Make it. Can I share the screen? Do I have permission?
Um,
Host disabled participant
yeah,
screen
let me,
sharing.
I just have to click on
Make the
something.
magic there, Miss Cindy.
Yeah, make the magic. Let me see. Where does it say that I can allow participants? I think you should be able to share now. Try now.
Yep.
All right.
Boom. Right there. This is BrainSync.
Okay.
And notice they specifically mention creativity,
Okay.
brainwave types. And I've
Okay.
used these for maybe a decade.
Okay.
They are absolutely fabulous. They make a huge, huge difference.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. This is, I learned something new, and that was part of the reason I wanted to do this, to learn from you all about what you're doing, because that's fascinating that you can use those kinds of tools to kind of tap into that. So I have a couple other questions. Let's see. Okay, this is on the same stuckness question, and I'm just going to ask, are there times when you find you're more stuck than others? Are there situations that kind of create stuckness? I know for me, I can share that I can get stuck easily when I'm hurried, and that's kind of about not having the space. So if I'm under stress or pressure to accomplish something, we're talking about forcing it, or feeling that I'm rushed, then I get stuck very easily, because that not having the room to think about it will prevent me from being creative. Are there other situations that you all, anybody want to raise their hand and share, situations they know don't create creativity or leave room for it for yourself? You like to avoid?
Yeah, I would agree with you that when you're being rushed, or you don't have enough time, that in itself, I mean, is going to, it's kind of like what Murphy's Law, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. And then you're just like, and for me, I find myself going, okay, now what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Think, Teresa, think, kind of like that, and you can't do anything. Yeah. At that point, you're spinning your wheels just trying to actually think, or at least I am just trying to actually think. So yeah, when you're rushed and you're doing things in a hurry, which I never do anything in a hurry or in a rush, Yeah, that is when mistakes happen.
It is. It's when those things happen too. I try to avoid it. I can't always avoid it. I often find my days are rushed or cram-packed full of things, but I like to leave idle room. And that's when I find, if I can make space to be idle time in my day, I find I end up being more creative. Anybody else have ideas or situations to avoid so that you can remain innovative and solve problems easier?
I think one is like, if you're trying to do something that is something that someone else has told you to do that doesn't quite resonate. Like if you're within your business and you're trying to do all these rules and different tactics and stuff. I think tactics is a big one that I see people try and stack up, and it doesn't actually sit well with them and how they can actually, if you can't execute that stuff because it doesn't feel right, then there's no use trying to really build out your strategy around that. So that is something that I've seen a lot of people do, is kind of oh, I got told to do this, so I've been trying to do a lot of it, but I fucking hate it. So it's just feels like I'm drawing blood from a stone. So I think that sort of thing brings that sort of stuckness. I've been there a little while ago, but but I just see it more in other people at the moment. Yeah,
I think that's what Patty was talking about when she gave her 2 weeks notice. She's stepping outside the box and having a little courage to do what is right for you. And I think that's hard to do. And people give you a prescription, right? Here's the recipe, here's the things you should do to get to the goal. And if it doesn't resonate, as you said, Job, if it doesn't feel right, you're going to get stuck along the way, because you don't know, you're not following your own intuition. You're not giving yourself room to make your own decisions and following your own courage. So I think that's a very good thing to think about too, if you want to find yourself more creative and able to solve problems faster in your business, to check in with yourself maybe, and make sure that you're following a path that feels good for you versus just what other people are trying to prescribe and direct you to. There's nothing wrong with advice and suggestions from others. There's a lot of smarter people in the world than me. I take that all the time, but it needs to connect with you and it needs to feel authentic to your own desires. That's how you'll know it works, right?
I think you have to give yourself permission to say no. And this is something we talk about a lot is
love it.
That for me, that what you're talking about is like stubborn stuckness, because when somebody tells me I have to do it their way or their version because that's what's going to be best, and I know in my like feelings like it's not, then I sit there and I'm just stubbornly stuck and I'm pissed off and angry and I'm just not making progress, and that's not productive for anybody involved. So allowing yourself and giving yourself that permission to say, this isn't a good fit. You aren't a good fit for me. I'm not a good fit for you. It is totally okay to say, I don't want to work with you, because then you give yourself space to let the right people come in and you take the right kind of clients and you take the right kind of work, and then everybody's happy, everybody's productive. So permission, it's a good thing. It works for everybody.
Love it, Michelle. JR, you had something to share?
No, Michelle, you couldn't have said it better, because the worst outcome in business is if your company and your customer hate each other. Like that's the worst outcome for everyone.
Yeah.
So agreed 200% that there are certainly times, and my firm certainly has done it also, there absolutely are times where you just have to go to your customer and say, you know what, Mr. Customer, from the bottom of my heart, I wish we could help you, but we're just not the right fit for each other. And it's far better for everyone to do that, before it gets to the point where, people are ready to jump off of roofs together. Like it is absolutely okay to pull the plug. If it's not going to work and it's just going to be bad for everyone. A much worse outcome is to try to force it regardless. And everyone gets hurt that way. So absolutely, totally agree with Michelle there, and very well said.
Yeah. And I'll just, take it the next step further, because it's not just saying no to clients, but it's saying no to advice, saying no to recommendations, saying no to the, time commitments. I mean, and when I said check in with yourself, I think that, to give yourself room to do great things, regardless of whether it's creativity, you need to be following your own passion, your own heart, your own desires, what you want. And sometimes we forget that we have the power to say no. We really do. I love your sign, Corby. We can say no, and it takes a little courage to say no. A lot of us are people pleasers. I know I find myself in that category and want to make people happy. You absolutely want to make your customers happy. But you're right, JR, too, that's not going to be a good result if it's not working, right? If that connection is not there. I think that will help. All right, so I have one last question, and I'll just open this up to the whole group. We have a small enough group, and I'm going to ask, because I'm going to talk a little bit after this about some things. We'll brainstorm together about things you can do in your daily life to start talking about being creative. But my question is, does anybody in this group do anything in that traditional creativity space? Anything daily? Do you write? Do you paint? Do you play a musical instrument? Does anybody do that? Nobody? I can't believe you.
I play the piano.
Joel, you said, I'm sorry?
Sometimes the guitar and stuff.
Okay, Patty,
Yeah.
Joel, you said something?
Yeah, I play bass. I have a huge bass rig in my living room. Actually, I just plug into and play, and that's kind of where I unplug and kind of feed my muse.
I love that. Anybody else got a creative outlet?
I make costumes.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah, both my kids dance. I make costumes for dance, like complete sets of the Lion King costumes, things like that.
Wow.
But, I mean, Yeah.
multi-talented, Michelle. That's amazing.
Sewing and crocheting, things like that. Like the ancient art of crochet. Yes, I do that too. My kids look at me like, really? What are you doing, Mom? What is that? But
They'll appreciate it. Anybody else got a creative hobby?
I write my children's books.
That's fun. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Based on my actual life adventures, so I get to travel and write about it.
Beautiful.
Oh,
That's very cool. Well, and so that kind of just drops me right into, you know, the things that we can do. I know when I interviewed some of you for the video a few weeks back, I asked if we thought creativity could be taught. And it was interesting to hear the answers I got there. We all kind of came to the same agreement that everybody's already creative, so we don't need to teach it. Really what needs to happen is find a way to open it up. And allow yourself to be that way. And I do think for those of you who have a creative outlet, that is one of the ways to do that. Sort of like a muscle, you exercise it, you practice it. And even if you're playing the bass, the guitar, crocheting, any of those skills, those other, you know, aspects that aren't part of your business, I do think that they bleed into the other parts. And, you know, those moments of creativity, they're times to give yourself space, which we were talking about, and also times that, you know, you're practicing being innovative in those spaces, and then you can bring that back to your business.
I'll jump in there as soon as I can. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Multitasking, Joel, we love it. Everybody's doing it. Lots of people drumming for your time. Okay, so you know, I had made some notes before we started talking about some of the things that you can do to help open up creativity. And it's funny, as you guys were all telling the stories, we were asking the questions, a lot of those came up as Corby brought up the association of two things, taking her background, which is very diverse and different from what she's doing today, and kind of matching those two things together. That's a very good exercise to do. You can actually do that as a creativity exercise. Just take two objects and try to figure out how they relate, or take two new ideas and bring them together. That association. And then JR talked a little bit about questioning. I definitely want to spend a minute about that, because I think questioning and curiosity is really sort of the secret to creativity and innovation. It forces you to ask questions. JR, you wanted to speak?
Well, especially as it relates to our businesses, as we are working with customers and clients, I think that maybe setting an expectation up front will go a long way. Especially in my line of work, you know, I tend to ask really personal, invasive questions, right? I'm asking about people's, you know, money, their families, their businesses. And so if you're working, especially with a new client or a new customer, right, being upfront and saying, you know, hey, you know, I'm going to ask a lot of questions, and it's not because I'm being nosy. It's because I'm trying to understand you and your business as best as I can, so that we can come up with the best solutions for you. And I think that by kind of setting the stage up front, it really helps put the relationship on a great footing, because then, you know, your customers know that it's not about you just trying to get up in their business. It's trying to help them as best we can.
Right. And asking questions when you're serving your customers or working with them, it gives you more fuel for that innovation and creativity. And you're right, letting them know that you're planning to ask questions certainly diffuses any of their pushback or pullback. But even asking questions of yourself or of the problem are good. I know, I think I've mentioned to a few people here that I use a technique called 5 whys, and asking it in layers when you're trying to get to the heart of a problem, which is, you know, you ask yourself, why do you want to do this? And then you answer it and then ask, but why that? So like, why is the sky blue? Because of this. Well, now why is that true? And just dig deeper and deeper. Asking multiple layered questions, regardless of what your topic is, will help you find different angles, different solutions to the problem. And maybe, I think it was JR that coming at it from another door, right? We come in the back door. We will find that back door by, you know, posing the right sets of questions. And a couple of other things that help, I think, in kind of bringing forward innovative thought is to just observe. I know I learned this. I'm going to share a couple books in a minute, and I learned this from the 9 Modern Day Muses when I read that book and talked with Jill, who wrote that book. She talks about just walking in the world and being open and observing things, looking at things, look at the color, look at the shape, focus a little layer on the details, because that practice of doing that will again bleed over into your professional life, because sometimes we gloss over those details. We just see the surface of things, and it's the details where the solution is. And you can teach yourself to slow down by taking an intentional walk. Like Job said, I mean, I know I walk every day, and I walk with my mom on the phone, but that doesn't count because I'm busy. I'm, doing something else. It helps me when I take a walk and I actually look up and look at the trees and look at the plants, look at the buildings, pay attention to what's in front of me, and observe the details. That helps later when I need to problem solve. I think observing, and then I think we talked a little bit about experimenting. Then there's courage with that, trying different things. I think that helps a lot. Adjusting. Job was mentioning his approach of trying and then retooling and doing it again, and I think that's really what you're doing, is experimenting as you evolve, and we're all doing that. And then the last thing I think is networking, which is what we're all doing here in a very different kind of way, but we're all getting to meet other folks. And I know socializing my issue, talking about it, sometimes just saying it out loud to myself, it's talking to a friend or a colleague or something, but it's because I hear the words come out of my mouth that the solution sort of comes as part of that. And then hearing new ideas from other people, it sort of all comes full circle. So I hope that there's some things that you've heard here. I'm going to share a couple of books in addition to Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic. I have a couple of other ones that I had picked out. These are books I've read personally and love. And so when I talk about this topic, Big Magic is absolutely inspirational and reminds us all that we're creative. The 9 Modern Day Muses and a Bodyguard is a lovely little workbook where she takes the 9 Greek muses and turns them into real people and personifies them in a way. One of the muses is called Audacity, and she talks, it's very fun and playful, and she talks about having the audacity to pretend to be the person you want to be, or pretend to have the solution, and how important that is to that piece of courage. It's a great book. It's a fun book, but she has some really good techniques for breaking out of that stuckness and practicing creativity in your life. And then the Creativity Challenge is another book. This book has 150 challenges. They're very easy to do. Some are things like writing for 5 minutes. I think the one I wrote down that I really liked was take 5 minutes and write fast, as detailed as you can, about something in front of you. So just writing really fast. And again, that comes back to like seeing the details. There's a ton of those ideas in that book. He of course shares some of the same things we've talked about, like taking a walk and so forth. But if you're looking for some suggestions, that's a great one to pick up. And then the last one on my list is Daily Rituals, and Daily Rituals by Mason Curry. I read this a few years ago. It is, he looks at how other artists throughout the world and throughout history have established their daily routine. I have a very interesting, maybe absurd fascination with habits and daily routines. So when I saw this, I was fascinated by the book, but everything from Stephen King to poets in history and so forth, and Hemingway, and the things that they did to stay unstuck. Some of them did everything from take drugs to take walks to, very rigid schedules of don't talk to me and I eat the same thing every morning. So it's a whole gamut of them. I could read that book over and over. It's a lot of little chapters about different artists across time and across the world. And I think the thing that I took away from that is that there are so many ways to do it. There's no right or wrong. It's what resonates with you and what feels right for you and your life. So if you're interested in picking up those, I'll send this in an email when we get done here, so you have the names of those books, but I did want to share them because I think, the whole idea of me doing these sessions was to try to inspire you to develop your superpower. And this month we're talking about creativity. So let's figure out how to harness that superpower and become more creative and bring more of that to our businesses. So that's all I have to share. I did want to, I'll give you a share with you the next month's schedule in just a moment, but I'll just pause and see if anybody has some last words or anything they want to share. Celeste, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just wanted to share 2 ideas that were provided to me that work really well.
Okay.
One is like when you get stuck somewhere, write out the issue or the problem or the stuckness in great detail, put it on a table and sit and spend some time at it and look at that issue from a different perspective. The side of the table, the head of the table. It's really interesting. And then to add on to that, establish your own board of advisors.
Okay.
It could be Thomas Edison. It could be whoever the experts are in the field that you're working in. And it's all just what do you think so-and-so would do, or what's the input this person would give you. So it's just using your imagination as a part of that creativity. And it's amazing what comes out of those personal sessions with just yourself.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love the idea of sort of what would they do? How would this person approach this? I've heard that suggestion of picking someone that you admire or respect, or somebody who's influential in the field, and ask yourself, what would they do in this situation? Because it often gives you courage, because you maybe wouldn't normally do it. But if you pick an expert or somebody who's well known in the industry and ask what would they do, you're like, oh, well, maybe I should be doing that too. Why am I not brave enough?
Yeah, we can't solve the problem from the same mindset that created it. So you have to get out of that mindset and go to a higher level and try it.
I'm going to just put up on the screen real quickly before everybody takes off what's coming next. I have next month, we're going to talk about active listening, and then we'll talk about focus, tribes. I have a whole series of these coming for the next couple of months. So I hope you hang in there with me, and I'll send that list out to you if you want to join next time. And we'll continue this. I really like the dialogue and the sharing of back and forth. And thanks all of my panel guests, JR, Job, and TL and Patty. I really, really appreciate that. And everyone else that chimed in here and shared your thoughts on creativity. So thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great evening.
All right.
Great
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Cindy.
Cindy.
Thank
It
you
was
so
great.
much.
Thank you.